I'm Jaymie.
I'm Gemma.
And in today's podcast, we're talking about the top 5 traits of a healthy person.
So Kim said, I am struggling with the definition of healthy. What is healthy? Which is perfect timing because we wanted to do this podcast on the top 5 traits of healthy people. Mm-hmm. Now, I asked you, aside from this podcast, what do you think the top 5 traits are? And you gave me a list. And then I went to the Body Smart community and I asked their opinion. And originally what I was going to do was list your 5 and ask what they thought about that. But instead I thought, that's your opinion, obviously. They're your top 5 traits for a healthy person.
Of course, yeah.
I wonder if that's different for somebody else. So I asked our community and they all came back with all sorts, which then got me thinking, because I saw your list and I was like, yeah, right, he's bang on, Jamie's clever, he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
They're good top 5 tips. And then I thought, okay, I would identify myself now as a healthy person, having gone through a health and wellbeing and fitness journey. Are my top 5 traits the same? And I really put some thought into this over multiple cups of coffee, and I've got my list too. So, but I wanted to start off with yours.
Yeah.
Like, what for you are the top 5 traits of a healthy person? And we'll dive into each one.
I think what the thing that Kim said there that's important is like, what is a healthy person? And I think if you asked 10 different people what does being healthy mean to them, you'd probably get 10 different answers. And how you'll probably list those priorities will be what you see as most important to you at that point in time, but it can change over time. Yeah. So I think that's always just an important distinction to keep in mind. For me, my top 5 I've put down is daily movement, which could include exercise or going for a walk or just moving your body in some way, which if you follow us on Instagram, you see I'm all about trying to get people to move the body on a daily basis. A balanced diet. And that just means obviously enjoying the food that I love, but also eating a nutrient-dense diet that makes me feel great too and gives me lots of energy, helps me.
So I want to stop you on that because I want to dive into these a little bit more.
Okay.
Right. So daily movement. Let's just go back to that a second. For you, as a healthy person, let's talk about you personally. What is your daily movement like?
So either an exercise session, or sometimes like yesterday I done like a morning mobility for 15 minutes as soon as I woke up, and then just went for a morning walk for about 45 minutes. So it was like an hour, but it was just a way of moving my body first thing in the morning, no screens, and just getting out and moving. Sometimes it's an exercise session, but it's normally a combination between the two of them. And then sometimes for me and Steph have just been like really chocker with work, we'll just like dance in the kitchen like lunatics with each other.
What you put on? What's your song you put on?
Oh, we just like a bit of smooth FM, get all the classics on, all the 70s, 80s, 90s. Oh yeah, I love it. Just I can't dance for shit, but I give it a go. She can, yeah. She guides me. I do step on her toes every now and then.
But you also like doing a hard workout, don't you? Like recently you've been doing loads of stories on the step machine.
On the Stairmaster.
For 45 minutes. What's that all about?
Cardio is good for your overall heart health and cardiovascular health. And weirdly, I enjoy sweating like a lot. It makes me feel like really good. You've heard of that runner's high. Mm-hmm. And I kind of get that off the stepper. Like I get like a real high off when I've finished. I just feel like the sweat coming out my body is like all the stress melting away. That's what I feel like. So like I've had a really stressful day the day before. 16, 18 hour day, feel like battered and knackered from the day, and then I can get up and I'll still feel a little bit like that, and then I'll go and do 45 minutes on the stepper and stretch for 20 minutes, and then I just feel alive. I feel like my body's come back again, and those problems they don't feel as large. They're still there, but they feel more manageable, and just it makes me feel great. So exercise, training hard.
You don't have to sweat though, do you? Excessive. Like for you, you're saying you like to sweat because it's like a runner's high. Oh, I don't know. So yeah, like sweater's buzz.
Yeah. So not all my workouts are like that, because you can't just go hard all the time. Your body just won't be able to optimally recover. That's why you can work out every day. I don't advise. I do think you should take some time off. I think you should move your body every day. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I do like to work out hard, and then if I'm ever feeling a little bit more stressed, I know if I push myself a bit harder in that workout session, it's almost as if it alleviates the stress a little bit more.
Yeah, no, I do get that. Yeah. Right, okay, fair enough. So back to your second point then, which you said was?
A balanced diet.
What does that actually mean?
It'll look different for everyone. So I think this is where, there's certain like foods and things and behaviors that we know to be healthy or to have a more healthy, balanced diet, but it can look very different for different people. And this can just honestly be down to your like genetic makeup and your DNA, whether you've got food sensitivities, how your gut reacts to certain things. So it can look very different. Like what I could eat is a healthy, balanced diet for me. And let's say I get a blood test and my bloods are in, great order. I'm classed as a healthy individual from the data that my bloods show. You could have a twin of mine who could eat the same diet and they could be unhealthy of eating the same diet. And that's just because maybe the way their gut is processing certain foods. Obviously and this is where it kind of gets a little bit more complex, and that's why there is no one size fits all approach to anything. You have to really find what works for you. Obviously, we know eating the rainbow, which basically just means eating lots of color. Me and you used to always talk about people coming into the office with a beige diet. You know what I mean? Just like when you eat a beige diet, there's just little to no nutrients, very little fiber. Very little micronutrients, and yeah, you're not getting that goodness from the food in essence. But there's things like broccoli that I've realized over the past 2 years just doesn't agree with me. Like every time I eat broccoli, it just like I can boil broccoli and eat it and it's fine. But if I cook it any other way or reheat it, like I just bloat. It completely sets off my stomach.
Do you know why that is?
It's down to the FODMAPs in the food.
Okay.
Yeah. So and this is just all things and. A lot of people will have food sensitivities, and then as you age, they can get worse. The joys of getting older and grey hairs and everything else that comes with it. But so like your food sensitivities can get worse over time.
Can you develop them just off the bat as well?
So Stacey, one of our head coaches, she didn't have any food sensitivities and then got really bad food poisoning. And then after that, like literally couldn't eat dairy anymore. So she'll eat like a little bit of cheese and stuff, but if she eats a tiny bit too more, her face breaks out in rashes, and she gets like, horrendous gut issues and stuff. And it's very uncomfortable. So she has to be, anytime Stacey comes to visit us in Liverpool, we make sure she's got a room with a fridge, and that's because she always has to take a lot of her own food because she's now so sensitive off the back of that food poisoning.
It's quinoa for me. I used to eat quinoa morning, lunch and dinner. I'm going back many, many years ago, maybe 10 years ago. I got into running and I found out that quinoa had a lot of protein in as well as good carbs. So I would make it with orange juice and raisins for breakfast, and then I would have it made with a bit of stock for dinner, and then I'd have it for my tea as well. I cannot eat that stuff now. Yeah. It's like I'm in labour again.
Yeah,
the pain.
Horrible.
Oh, it's so bad. It's the only thing that relieves it is just like lying on the floor.
Yeah, lying on your back.
Lying on a cold floor on my back, contemplating my life choices.
Yeah.
And I do enjoy the stuff, but there's just no point me eating it.
Yeah.
So for me, eating, I suppose, a balanced diet would be not having that in
my
not
diet. Having food that's going to cause you that much pain and discomfort, because if you set your gut off like that, it's, you're probably not thinking the best. You're probably like having to lie on the floor. I've had that as well, and you're just not overall feeling your best. So a balanced diet is, making sure you're getting enough nutrients in your diet, making sure that you're eating foods that agree with you, and getting enough fiber, and really working out what that looks like for you, and also understanding that it can change over time.
So I'm going to ask you something that a lot of people ask about when it comes to your diet, carbs. So a lot of people will automatically have this belief, this myth in their head that carbs are bad, so therefore they think they shouldn't have it have carbs in a diet. Why is that right or wrong? The Atkins diet come out around the 80s, and it come up, as this like new weight loss diet that people can see incredible results off, and people were like, oh wow, let's give this a try. So carbs, like 1 gram of carbs holds around 3 to 4 grams of water. So what would happen is people would go on a low carb diet and they would cut carbs out, and they would see this would put them into a calorie deficit because a lot of the foods that maybe they were eating were high in carbs. And also just for some like pros around a low carb diet in terms of how it was in terms of ease to execute, it's very easy to go into the shops and be like, well, I can't have bread, or I can't have a bagel, oh no potatoes. It's very easy to go like, oh, I can't put that in my shopping trolley. I've got to. It becomes, when you go to the shops, it's very easy to be like, oh, I can't have that and I can't have this. So that made it almost easier to follow for some people. But a lot of these, and then a lot of carbs also tend to be high carb foods, but also high fat. So 1 gram of carbs is 4 calories, 1 gram of fat is 9 calories.
So when people just cut carbs out the diet straight away, and just stuck to maybe like proteins and fats, they were probably just in a massive calorie deficit, so an energy deficit, which we know is the principle behind weight loss. But they also dropped a lot of water. 1 gram of carbs equals 3 to 4 grams of water. So in the first week or two of doing a low carb diet, like, oh my God, I've lost 10 pounds. And you're like, that's it. Carbs are the devil. Like, that's the reason I've not been able to lose weight. It's the carbs. And then most people maybe get like another week, a couple of weeks, maybe even a couple of months into this diet. And then they're like, you know what? I really want a bagel. You know what I mean? Or I really want some ice cream, or you really want to eat carbs. And then maybe you just pig out a little bit on carbs, or you binge out a little bit on carbs because you've been so restricted from them. And then you jump on the scales the next day and you've gained 7 pounds. And this reaffirms to you that carbs are the devil. Yeah. That's why oh my God, I ate the carbs and I've seen all this weight come back on. In reality, what's happened is you're probably a little bit bloated. You're probably holding on to a lot more water. And maybe you're eating a calorie surplus for a day. But, in reality, you might have gained half a pound. And, you probably got like 5 or 6 pounds of weight anomalies. But people don't know that. So they just automatically assume carbs are the devil. When I cut carbs, I lose weight fast. When I bring the carbs back in, I gain weight fast. But it's still energy balance. You were just in a calorie deficit and you lost weight and you lost fat and you lost water. And then when you introduced them back in, you just gained water went back into the muscle, and you maybe gained a little bit of fat. So carbs aren't inherently bad. They are one of our main energy sources, and they taste great. They taste bloody great.
I want to ask you something that I have just been doing, and I need to point out, I'm not a coach.
Okay.
I am a writer.
Yes.
I am not a coach. And this might be wrong. But one thing I've been doing is, let's say I have a day where I'm going off plan, I'm going to overindulge a little bit, and that's okay because I've planned it in, like a pizza or something.
Yeah.
I like to play this little game of, I look on my fitness pal at how many extra carbs I've eaten.
Okay.
Times it by 4. Oh my goodness, sorry, that was one of my alarms. Let's turn that off. That was my water alarm.
Drinking water.
Airplane mode's on, but the alarms are still going off. So back to this. So I like to look at how many carbs I've had. Let's say, I don't know, it's 250 extra grams of carbs that I deliciously enjoyed.
Yep.
Times it by 4 for that 4 extra grams of water.
Okay.
And then the next day, I like to guess how much weight I'll have gained. And it's usually about right.
Okay. Yeah.
And I do that psychologically because it helps me go, you're going to have put weight on tomorrow, but that's okay because it's water weight from carbs. Is that wrong? Is that wrong?
You're not wrong. I probably would see more than that. So, let's say you eat 250 grams of carbs and you might think, oh, that's an extra pound that I'm going to put on. But normally with 250 grams of carbs, you're also going to get a lot of sodium, and you're going to get other things that could possibly cause you to retain more water, plus just an overall increase of calories. Your body's got to digest that food. So, I've had it where I've overate on a day and I can get up the next day and weigh 6 or 7 pounds more overnight, more sometimes, depending on how late I've eaten. So, your body does fluctuate in weight, and that is completely normal. But no, it's not wrong. I think having that awareness around your body and understanding your body allows you to rationalize. If you do jump on the scales, it allows you to rationalize those numbers more because you're like, oh yeah, I feel a bit heavy. I feel a bit bloated. I did eat my dinner at 10 o'clock last night and I overate on calories and carbs. Yeah, this is normal. 2 days later, it'll be gone.
But that links in, doesn't it, to having a balanced diet is also having an understanding around the foods that you eat. So, for example, you talked about sodium then, and eating something that's high in sodium might cause you to retain more water and therefore weigh more on the scales the next day. But I think having that knowledge and having that awareness, I'm speaking from experience here. So if I'm making something, I don't know, like Chinese or Thai, and I'm using lots of fish sauce and soy sauce.
It's super high in sodium.
I know I'm gonna have a scale gain if I choose to weigh myself the next day. But that isn't a reason for me to think, can't eat soy sauce and can't.
Well, no, and sodium will also give you a great workout the next day. It'll help with the blood flow, and you'll get like a better pump. So like that's where the blood's rushing into the muscles.
Is that when you get bigger biceps?
Yeah. So probably a lot of people could feel this in the forearms more than anywhere. So like, let's say you do some heavy rows or, pull downs or pull ups or deadlifts, you'll tend to feel like your forearms feel solid, and that's just the blood rushing into that muscle, and it feels pretty hard. And that when you've got excess sodium in your system, you'll probably get a better pump in your next workout.
Try that. Hey. Next time I'm having lots of soy sauce, I'm going to make sure. I
think you're right. Like having a balanced diet, it's hard to understand what a balanced diet is without having that self-awareness around maybe food sensitivities, or even knowing to make, let's say you feel crappy after every time you eat. You've got to have that awareness and knowledge to go, right, I'm going to start journaling this down and actually go, right, every time I eat broccoli, I'm bloated for 3 hours and I feel uncomfortable. Should I cut broccoli out and see if it stops? Right, okay, maybe broccoli, I need to have a closer look at that. And then just overall education around food. Do you understand what calories are, macros are, micronutrients, fiber, sugar, sodium, and are you able to curate what a balanced diet is for you? And yeah, that takes education, that takes reps. That's why I intuitively eat, but I intuitively eat now after spending years of educating myself around food and becoming self-aware. And I think that's the missing part. Some people have just struggled with diets for such a long period of time. They're like, I'm just going to listen to my hunger and fullness cues, and I'm just going to intuitively eat. And then they go 3 months later and they've gained 15 pounds. And it's like, well, you can't listen to your hunger and fullness cues. That's probably what got you into that mess in the first place. At that point, you need to first educate yourself about food, educate yourself around what true hunger and fullness cues are, and then you can start to move into a place over time to intuitively eat, because nobody wants to track calories for the rest of their lives.
No.
But you can be more intentional about how you eat and respect certain parts of hunger and fullness cues and how your body feels and reacts at certain times.
Do you think you can only really truly achieve a balanced diet once you've gone through a fat loss phase?
No, because there's a lot of people, not a lot of people, but there's a lot of people that their parents instilled in them healthy behaviors and healthy habits around food. And there's a lot of adults that I know and people that I know that have a healthy relationship with food, are not overweight and don't really understand, maybe have that education around food, but it's because they've never struggled with food. So they were brought up in an environment where they just made balanced meals and were fed balanced meals and still have that relationship with food and were maybe educated around it. And I think honestly, we have so many mums at Body Smart, and I think that is a big why for them. They've struggled with this for 20 plus years. And then when they finally grab the bull by the horns and go, I've got this, I understand this now. For them, it's like, I'm going to be able to teach my kids this. Yeah. And they're not going to have to go through the same struggles that I have around food, relationship with food, understanding around food, because I'm going to educate them. And I think that's a huge intrinsic why for these ladies to figure this out. Because it does take time and it is difficult. And yes, some people have had that privilege, growing up to have that, but some people haven't. And it's never about comparison or pointing the finger. It's just very much taking, ownership and responsibility for where you're at and figuring that out.
I asked you that about the fat loss phase because of your healthy traits. When you gave me this list and I was thinking about this, I don't think I'm there yet with a balanced diet. So I'm currently at a point of reverse.
That's okay as well.
Yeah, it is okay. It is. But I'm at a point of reverse dieting, and one of our Body Smart clients asked me, how are you finding eating more? I can't mentally get my head around that. And are you finding that you're starting to eat foods that make you feel better? And I was like, no, I'm not there yet. And I know that needs to be my next part of the process of figuring out what a balanced diet looks like for me, is moving out of that fat loss phase and thinking, right, well, does eating a bit more rice mean that my workout is better? Am I sleeping better because I'm eating this? What, like you said then, I'm feeling a bit bloated. What did I eat yesterday? What's not agreeing with me? I'm not there yet. And I think that it's really easy to say, a balanced diet looks like the 80-20 balance. And it's so much more than that.
It's so much more than that. Even for me, it's recently changed. Me and Steph were having our dinners at 8-9 o'clock at night. We were just working late and then having dinner late. And then we realised, we started having it a bit earlier. And then we started sleeping better. Sleep scores went up just off having a dinner at 6 o'clock, 6:30. So that's been something that's changed over the last sort of 6 months for me and Steph, which I would still class as being a part of a balanced diet. And yet you'll go through, multiple phases of what a balanced diet or a healthy diet will look like for you. In a fat loss phase, in a reverse diet. And what you said there about increasing calories, increasing food. Yeah, there can be a lot of scarcity around this if you've been trying to lose weight for such a long time. That's why we've got the Rockin' Your Reverse Diet module in Teachable for our clients in the learning zone. And that's because, they are similar struggles that people go through. But I guess it's not getting married to what a balanced diet looks like for you right now, because you can just get overall decision fatigue. You know what I mean? Just from the whole thing, if you're trying to just take it all on board at once, I think you've just got to very much focus on like, right, what is my primary goals now? What is my primary goals? Is it to lose weight? Cool. What's a balanced diet going to look like in order for me to consistently and successfully lose weight? And then it's like reverse diet, right? Well, the goalposts have shifted now. What does that look like? Right now I'm at maintenance. How do I want to feel? Well, I want to really improve my workouts. Like somebody who's maybe having their diet geared towards performance and workouts would be different to somebody whose diet is maybe geared towards, cognitive performance. And you know what I mean? So it does look different. You know what I mean? So I think that's just always getting very, very clear on that first. Is it fat loss? Is it reverse? Is it maintenance? Is it for your performance and workouts? Is it because you don't have that much time? Maybe you've only literally got time to eat twice a day. Like that's it. Some people are, we have nurses, doctors, busy mums, professionals. They're like, I'm like up, workout, kids dressed, out the door, straight to work. You know what I mean? It's like, so a balanced diet for them is going to look different. And I think that's just important there isn't a one size fits all approach. And what a healthy diet means to you can change at different stages in your life and your journey.
I like that. Nice in-depth chat about balanced diet. That was good. But you mentioned there about not eating too late because it affects your sleep, which links nicely onto your next trait of a healthy person. Let me make sure my alarms are turned off while you tell us.
So my next trait is great sleep. And this, me and you definitely relate to this as avid sleep abusers.
We were sleep abusers.
Yeah.
We used to have a competition.
That's how unhealthy it was.
We'd have like a meeting, wouldn't we, at 10:30 at night. We'd go home, we'd be WhatsApping each other at midnight, and then at 4:00 in the morning we're back on. Like, I've just had 4 hours sleep. Yeah. What a pair of dickheads we were.
Yeah. But I think that was just a culture at the time, and very much how I was brought up and raised, especially off my dad. That was like, for my dad, he'll never work as hard as my granddad. And for me, I'll never work as hard as him. And that's just kind of like, you'll sleep when you're dead. Your hands need to be rock hard. It's just all that like very like macho mentality around things and getting after it. And I, fought that for a very long time. And then when I did start sleeping just more, not even looking at quality, just more, it instantly changed my life. And I know a lot of like shift workers and parents are just going to be like, well, I haven't got that luxury right now. And I feel, you know what I mean? I really do. But getting your sleep into a great place, people who sleep like less than like 6 hours a night, like your life expectancy like drastically reduces the chance of like heart disease and heart attacks and cancers, and everything just goes through the roof. And that's, scarcity doesn't often motivate people to take action, but I think just having the overall information and education around it sometimes can make it slightly higher on your priority list. And not only that, like when you have a great night's sleep, you feel great. You know what I mean? Like the next day you've got so much more energy, you've got so much more motivation, you've got so much more get up and go. You're better in your job, you're a better parent, you're better everyone when you're
stressed. Yeah. You don't crave as much crap the next day. I don't. And I'm going to sleep better.
Matt Walker talks in Why We Sleep about the biggest sleep experiment that's done every year, and it's daylight savings. And it's like every year when everybody gets 1 hour more sleep per night, the next day heart attacks go down, strokes go down, car crashes go down, like everything like statistically like takes a nosedive. And on the vice versa, when everyone gets 1 hour less sleep, everything goes up, heart attacks go up, car crashes go up, fatalities go up, just like across the board, there's just more overall fatalities and death. And it's like, that's off 1 hour of sleep extra. And like we are the only mammals that actively try to not sleep as much as we can. You know what I mean? Like, and it's because, time is our greatest commodity and we're always fighting against that, and everyone's so busy nowadays. So you do get it, but setting that boundary and making sleep a priority, and good sleep, not just the quantity, so like 7 to 9 hours, but the quality is so important. And that's something that I'm still refining to this day.
Oh yeah, definitely. I read an article yesterday. It was in The Guardian, about couples who, it's like a great taboo in relationships and marriages, couples who choose to sleep in separate beds to increase the quality of their sleep. And I was reading this. I've got a friend who does this, and I'll admit I've been one of those people who's like, God, that's really weird.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you sleep, in the same bed as your husband? And then my friend who grew up an only child, so I've only got one child. And my friend who grew up as an only child, we were chatting about this a few weeks ago, and she said, I always used to feel a bit sad about that when I was little and growing up. Like, my mummy and daddy got to sleep in bed together, and I was on my own in the next room. And when you think about that logically as a grown-up, it's a bit mad, it's a bit bonkers. If sleep is so important, we will often sacrifice good sleep for the cultural norm of sleeping in the same bed as somebody. Like, my husband sleeps, he's such a light sleeper, I could sleep through a bomb. And so if I'm snoring or sleep talking or I'm hitting him in the middle of the night, he has a crap night's sleep. And the logic, the grown-up and sensible thing probably to do would be for us to have separate beds and separate rooms. But then that whole kind of intimacy and marriage and relationships makes you go, oh no, that's weird, that's strange. Is it something that you'd ever consider doing?
My parents do this. I think
okay.
it's just more that my dad used to go to bed early and my mum would stay up later, and then my mum just stayed in the spare room, and now they've just sort of gone into different rooms. But yeah, I mean, Steph, like, I've been elbowed in the face many nights, and it's like not a nice way to wake up, or punched. She sleep talks as well, and she snores a lot. So that's definitely...
Hi, Steph, if you're listening.
Yeah, hi,
Sorry.
snores. And, I mean, one of the big things that was a good game changer for me, because I used to never be able to sleep next to anyone. Like any of my partners in the past would just always terrible night's sleep, and it put me off, like, even wanting to go and see them, because it was that bad. But I got a Super King bed, and that does make a difference because the bed's just bigger.
So, because I've only got a double bed, so when we ever stay in hotels and things, I don't like it because I feel like he's miles away from me because we've only got a small bed.
So we'll often like fall asleep on top of each other, or like arms around each other, but then we'll always wake up and we're like apart.
Separate.
So, yeah, so I think that definitely does help. But yeah, there's definitely lots of things to sleep quality, and I know a lot of professional athletes when they like travel to, a sporting arena, or they travel with the families, or like when Wimbledon's on, I know like a lot of the top athletes there, they'll be in a house, but their parents sleep in like separate rooms, like, and that's just so to make sure that the athlete gets a proper night's sleep before they're about to compete the next day, because of just the importance it plays.
I know Dave Brailsford, who ran the British cycling team, they research like the best pillows and the best bedding for their team, and they take that stuff all around the world with them when they're cycling and competing to make sure they get that good night's sleep.
Well, I definitely, like, in the summer this year, I'm definitely going to buy like a cooling mattress that goes on. Yeah, because I get quite hot in my sleep, and the optimal temperature to sleep at is 18 Celsius, and obviously in the summer, you're just not getting that on those hot and humid nights. I get like a lot hotter than Steph, and it definitely affects my sleep. So I've seen like a lot of people have been getting them where they put
Are they called like a chill mat, where you put it on top of the mattress? Yeah,
and then your sheets are over it and stuff, but you can control the temperature, but it just keeps you, cool.
So would you get like a half one?
Probably,
so it's on your side?
yeah.
So maybe I could get that for Sean, because I sleep fully clothed. Like, my shoulders have to be covered to my wrists, full tracksuit, socks. I've even been known to sleep in dressing gown and hat. Yeah. Oh, I'm ridiculous. And he's naked. Why are you just cold? Just always cold. Yeah. And he's naked next to me.
So that's why you don't want to get a cold bath.
Don't want to get a cold bath, yeah. But that's again like a discrepancy in our sleep styles, in that I need to be clothed and covered. And I would sleep with 2 duvets all year round, whereas Sean even when we go on holiday, he will sleep like with nothing, no sheet, nothing next to me. I'm fully clothed with a sheet, and I will go and ask the hotel reception for extra sheets. I'm an absolute pain in the arse when it comes to sleep. So, What's next on your list? What's number 4?
Number 4 is boundaries.
Oh, this might surprise people. You wouldn't think this would be on a list of healthy traits, but go on, elaborate.
Just being able to set healthy boundaries in respecting yourself at the same time, I think is just so important a word that I'm trying to stick at this year is being at peace. So understanding that there's going to be good and bad days, But if I can be at peace with it all, then I'm able to keep more of a consistent sort of state.
Is that like, I know last year it was enjoy the process.
It's still enjoy the process. It's still enjoy the process. But I think this is a part of enjoying the process more, is being able to set healthy boundaries, whether that's with other people, whether that's with work, whether that's with Steph, whether that's with anyone.
Whether it's with yourself as well.
Yeah, definitely. Being able to set those boundaries. And I know it's one that a lot of people struggle with. A lot of people struggle, and I'm not trying to generalize here, but a lot of women, more so I do find, struggle to say no, and will take on that mental load or mental pressure that other people put on them by not saying no. And I see this a lot, even more with mums, I would say.
Yeah.
And it's they're putting everybody else first before themselves. And maybe they had time to go to the gym 3 times and eat a balanced diet and get great sleep. But then they just said yes. Yeah. And those 3 traits I've just mentioned, well, there's no time for you to do them because you just kept saying yes. And setting a boundary is being able to say no without even to justify yourself. So
hard. Though.
So hard.
How the hell are we supposed to do that?
Like let's say you're taking the kids to school and another mum's like, oh, can you pick my kid up as well and take them home? I've got this and this on. The natural part of you might be want to just say, yeah, I'll do that, no problem. But then you've just missed your gym workout or your class that you had booked in that night. And it's not saying that you can't say yes and help people out and do things in those situations, but it's almost understanding like, what are your non-negotiables? What have you got to do for you to be at your best, to then show up the best for other people? And I think that can be really important of just, outlining like what your values are and understanding what it is that you want. So I think when a lot of people will know a business's values. I think you said this to me. A lot of people know a business's values, but they don't know their own values. And I think that's really, really important to start with.
And if you're listening and you're like, oh, I've never even thought about that, you can just look online and Google it. Look for a list of values. So I did this. I think I found a list of about 700 words. And then I went through and I circled the ones that jumped out at me. And I repeated that process about 4 or 5 times until I ended up with my 4, which are fun, positivity, truth and expression. They are my 4 personal core values. And as long as I'm meeting all of those, I am a happy bunny.
Yeah.
And if any of those are compromised, they're not. And I'll give you an example with exercise. So we bought this time last year an Echelon bike.
Yeah.
I wanted a Peloton, but there was a 17-week waiting list. So we got an Echelon bike.
Yeah.
Right? I have never enjoyed spinning class ever in my whole goddamn adult life. Why did I think that buying one and putting it in my hall would actually work? There's one of my core values, fun. Something's got to be fun.
Yeah.
Spinning and doing a spinning class
Not
has
fun.
never ever been fun for me.
Yeah.
Why on earth did we spend an absolute fortune on that bike, which has become a glorified coat hanger in my hall?
Yeah.
And that's why I think that's a really silly example, but learning what your true core values are helps you, and it helps you say no.
Yeah.
It helps you say no on those boundaries.
And they'll change. So I'll give you an example of a client that I was working with, and she was really struggling with just like prioritizing and saying yes and saying no, and didn't really know where to go. So at the time, this lady's in university, she's working as well. So we went through this and we were like, right, what's the number one thing that you need to get done at the moment? And she's like, I have to get my university work done or my college work. Like that's absolutely number one priority. And I was like, okay, so that comes before everything else. I was like, what's number 2? And she was like, my health, my fitness, my own self-care. I was like, okay, that's number 2. And then I was like, okay, what's number 3? And she was like, oh, maybe some extra workouts if we can, because we defined how much self-care she would need, but she does enjoy exercising. And then she was like, in social times. And I was like, okay, so you can never say yes to number 2 until you've done everything on number 1, which was university. I was like, that's it. That's how you just say yes and no. And I was like, then you can never say yes to number 3, which was social occasions and extra workouts, unless you've done number 2, which was whatever her self-care looked like. So then when it comes to, right, well, my non-negotiable for my number 2 is to get 3 workouts in a week. But you've done 2 and it comes to Friday night and your friends are asking to go for a coffee or a drink. but that's when you've got your workout booked in. So you have to say no because you've got to respect number 2 on your values and your boundaries at that time, which is you need to hit that non-negotiable. You can see them on Saturday or Sunday and say yes to that instead. So it's just almost, it's trying to create a framework that can change at all points and all times, that is in line with your current values and your current boundaries in terms of what you want to do. And if you can figure out what that is and then respect that, you'll feel so much better. It can be difficult at times to say no, but overall you're going to feel it in a much physically and mentally better place.
I've got a good quote on this as well.
Go on.
The people who get upset when you exert your boundaries are those who probably crossed them in the first place.
True.
Which is so true.
Yeah,
it's so true.
Yeah.
Right, what's number 5 on your list?
Number 5 is responsibility and personal responsibility. Yeah. So,
again, it wouldn't be like when you're thinking, oh, what are the top 5 traits of a healthy person? You might think things like water and all that, but that all comes...
That comes apart as like a balanced diet and stuff, yeah. I mean, these are the bigger ones because, what is responsibility? Responsibility is just taking ownership for where you are right now. Like, where you are right now, everything that's happened to you in your life, it's been able to look at yourself in the mirror and be like, I am where I am, and I take accountability and responsibility for it. And it's something that's, dare I say, lacking in today's society. There's a lot of people that like to point fingers instead of point thumbs, and it's so much easier to just project outwards and blame the diet industry and diet culture and social media and your boss and your partner and your kids and blame everyone else but yourself. It's so much easier to do that. And I get it sometimes. Sometimes it's just probably just too hard to point that thumb back at yourself. But that is actually where that's the most freeing thing to do. Because when the second you start to take accountability for your own actions and where you currently are, now you can actually start to be like, right, this is where I'm at. What am I going to do to change it? I'm taking accountability for what's happened. What am I going to do to change it? And this doesn't just apply to your health and fitness. It does in a big way, but it applies to everything. And it's a hard conversation to have with yourself. And I've had many of these in my life where I've nearly been in tears with myself because I've been debating just massive changes around certain things, and it's difficult. It is very, very difficult. But if you can get to that place where you take extreme ownership, you take responsibility for everything that's going on, there is a massive level of empowerment from it.
I know you've talked about this before, like when we've had conversations in business. Let's say something's gone wrong, somewhere along the line in work. And what I love about what you say about this is, well, it's my fault. I have to as the leader, I've got to take responsibility. If something's gone wrong and something's not happened, it's my fault. I've got to take responsibility, because when you do that, I think there's something really empowering of being able to go, okay, it's my fault. How am I going to fix this? You become solution aware, as you always say, rather than problem aware. But that can also be quite a hard pill to swallow.
Oh, definitely. You know what I mean? Like, let's say in business, something happens and somebody really messes up, like they make a massive mistake, it costs the business or upsets a client or something happens, it'd be very easy in that moment for me to point the finger at them and say, well, why did you do this? And and just like, just unload on that person. It's much harder to point the thumb at myself and be like, right, well, why did that happen? Did I give that person enough training? Did I set up the right framework for them to have success in that situation? And ask all those questions. Did I make the right hire? Did we do all of these things? And if I ask all those questions, I'm taking ownership of the situation. And if I feel like yes, then I can go and have that next conversation with that person and understand, is this, we can just start to focus on solutions and maybe the steps that need to be taken forward. Yeah, it is difficult at times. Of course it is. And I think a place that I've definitely got is sometimes in the moment, I can definitely be more attached to those emotions of just like wanting to point fingers and go off on one. But the second I'm able to just have a moment and reflect, I always say like, be my higher self. Be higher self, Jay, be higher self. Like, just bring myself up there. Then I'm able to just sort of like, I think I got this from the book Extreme Ownership, and it was just like, it's very much about like, we often don't make good decisions based on high emotion.
Yeah.
So it's, making decisions based on logic instead of emotion. So like if something just triggers me in that moment and I act on emotion, it doesn't always tend out to work out the best way, versus if I'm able to take a step back and make a decision based on logic, you're able to just analyze and take better steps forward.
You could also apply that to health and fitness as well, like
of course.
making a decision, taking responsibility around logic rather than emotion. Let's say it's the start of the year. Oh, I'm setting New Year's resolutions to lose weight again for the 7th year in a row. Well, making those decisions based on logic, well, what have I tried before? Oh, it didn't work. Why didn't it work?
100%.
Taking the emotion away from it and understanding, right, well, I get to change that from today. What can I and we always talk about getting 1% better.
1% better.
Every day. Because a lot of people might get to that point, of, I call it that fuck it point. Fuck it, I've got to take action. I'm taking responsibility. I want to make a change. But where I know that we see people fail at that point is because they think, I'm going to change everything right now. Instead of working on the basics or looking for that quick fix or that magic pill or that thing that's going to make it fast and quick, because we always want it fast and quick.
We do. Yeah. It's about responsibility, and ownership is about having a growth mindset. It's about being able to reflect, learn and grow in every situation. It's going on a Friday, oh my God, have I really eaten that many calories today? Instead of going, fuck it, I'm just going to keep eating and overeat over the weekend. It's taking responsibility. You know what? I was in a rush, went to Tesco, I bought whatever was in there. I didn't have time to track it. I shouldn't have done that. Next time, you know what? I'm going to prep my food. So when I've got a busy day on my head, and I'm going to get back on track by not tomorrow, my next meal. You know what I mean? And that's taking responsibility. That's taking ownership. That's not just blaming the situation and not having enough time. That's being like, right, that's what's happened. I don't want that outcome to happen again. So I'm going to reflect on that. I'm going to learn from that by looking at for a different strategy for next time. And then I'm going to grow from that experience and keep moving forward. And if you just apply that to anything, it is literally just a matter of time until you get to your destination.
So recap for me your 5 healthy traits, and then I'll move on to mine.
So my top 5 healthy traits are: number 1, daily movement; number 2, a balanced diet; number 3, great sleep; number 4, boundaries; and number 5, responsibility.
Cool. So I looked at those and I was like, yeah, I agree on all of those. But then I thought, right, as somebody, as a woman who struggled for decades, up and down, weight loss, I have tried all the fads, fad queen. So I feel like I'm well positioned and well versed to say this. So my 5 would be, you had daily movement, and I thought about this and was like, now I've gone one step further. My top one would be outdoor exercise, outdoor daily movement. And I can say this confidently because in the last year, I think I've isolated for about
more than
70
anyone
days,
I've known.
Something
like a
that.
ridiculous amount.
2.5 months, I think I've isolated for in total. I've just done 2 weeks and didn't go out, and realised very quickly the impact that has on me mentally. Haven't taken my dogs out for a walk until last night.
Because this is different, I guess, from anyone who's listening. It's different from lockdown. This is like you've been in contact with someone who's maybe had COVID and being told you've got to isolate for 10 to 14 days. So that's like you can't even go out the house.
I can't even go out. I can't even go out, and I can't even go out for a walk down the lane because, well, my neighbours know I had COVID, so I wasn't even able to go for a walk down the lane. But for me, there's something. Being outside and seeing that bigger picture, I think mentally it makes me feel less penned in. It makes me feel like there's a big wide world out there. And then I found that a study by the University of Exeter, they monitored 20,000 people. And apparently the sweet spot is getting 120 minutes, so 2 hours of immersion in green space outside, immersion in nature. If you can do 2 hours a week, you have a significantly better impact on your mental and physical well-being. They call it eco-psychology, the immersion in nature for well-being. And I loved that. I thought that was great. I know you love going on your hikes. You love getting out in nature.
I do.
It's one of my big things for this year. I want to do more of that.
Yeah, it's so, and it's free as well. You know what I mean? Like that's it. Like we go and do, obviously the petrol and stuff that it takes to get to wherever you're going. But going for a hike or going for a big walk somewhere, you always feel so good and so grounded and so at peace after it. So no, I love getting outdoors and listening to a lot of, I know you have, Andrew Huberman over this sort of like past year. And, just all the benefits of sunlight and getting sunlight early in the morning and just being outdoors and understanding all like how that actually does positively affect our physiology is super interesting and also super helpful to be like, oh, right, we do need to get outdoors more because society is changing to put us indoors more.
Yeah, especially working from home these days
and
as well.
that's been such a big shift for everyone over this past year or two. So, you know, and it's like, it still feels weird for me to go for an intentional walk. Like, I just never had to do that before working from home. I just was already pretty active and outdoors and doing a lot of stuff. But now, like, putting it in my diary to go for a walk, it still does feel strange, even though I know it's obviously very beneficial. But yeah, getting out on a weekend and going for a hike or climbing a mountain. Yeah.
I should point out as well, like that's obviously one part of it, like you going and doing a big hike, you go to the Lake District.
Yeah.
But actually this study stated that there was no difference for people who were in urban spaces and just
walking
around a park. It was
definitely.
no different between ethnicities, gender, social, economic status, age. 2 hours a week, outdoors, in nature is like the sweet spot for
non-negotiable.
health.
Make it happen.
Yeah, that was my top that was my top healthy
Yeah.
trait of a healthy person. But yeah, there you go. There's some science to back it up. My second one is stress reduction. Actively working on reducing your stress, and in particular around the mental load. Now, I looked into some studies about burnout and I couldn't find a definitive percentage. It was anywhere between 52 and over 80% of workers have experienced burnout in their jobs.
That is insane numbers.
That's a lot. That is a heck of a lot. Now, but of course, stress isn't just about work at all.
No, there's shows up in all areas of life,
does.
doesn't it? Yeah.
I would argue that my main source of stress actually comes from home.
Okay.
And the responsibilities of being a mum and juggling things at home. And I've been reading a book called Fair Play by Eve Rodsky, which I know we talked about this. So Eve Rodsky is a lawyer. She's got 2 children, and when she had her second child, her husband phoned her. She had a newborn baby in the car, and her husband phoned her and said, "Can't believe you forgot to get blueberries from the shopping list." And she was in a car and she lost it. She lost the plot because it was like, what? Why is that my responsibility? So it started this chain of events for her where she wrote something called the shit I do list and she put it online.
Yeah.
And more women around the world started adding to it. And what started off as one sheet of A4, I think ended up about 10 pages long. Right?
Yeah.
So she came up with this method about how to share the mental load, rebalance your relationship and transform your life. So I want to put this out with a warning. If you do read this book, please make sure you read all of it, because the first quarter of the book will make you want to punch everybody. It will make you extremely angry because you all of a sudden realise the shit that you do.
Yeah.
And I was in the gym. Because I'm a sad geek, I always have the book version and the audio version at the same time. I always like listening to both. I'm in the gym and I'm listening to this, and I was doing my pull-ups on my band. And you'll know because we both go to the same gym. On the rig, there is a boxing bag next to it, and I had to go and just smash out a few punches.
It feels good, doesn't it?
On the boxing bag, because I was so annoyed about the fact when I realised how much I have been doing naturally because I'm a woman and because I'm a mum. So in this book, like one of the stats that I found, in a study by Today of more than 7,000 mums across the country, this is in America, most rated their stress levels at 8.5 out of 10. And apparently in the UK, a joint study by the universities of Manchester and Essex found that working mothers with 2 children had stress levels that were 40% higher than working mothers with no children. And so this book...
Would you say that's fair to say? I mean, I could imagine there's, back to you've got a lot more responsibility when you've got 2 kids if you haven't.
Yeah.
A hell of a lot more.
So this book actually comes with a card deck. There's 100 cards of things that a general household will do day to day. They reckon that mums will do... Well, sorry, that's the wrong thing to say. Parents who do the school run will do an approximate 43 tasks before they've left the house in the morning. Yeah. Right.
The mad rush to get the kids ready.
To get the kids ready to go to school.
Yeah.
So this system is 100 cards that the average household, 100 cards of tasks that somebody will she does this thing called CPE. What does it stand for? Let me remember. I wrote it down. It is conceive, plan, and execute. So you will do 100 things in your house that you conceive, plan, and execute each one. It's about having these cards. Now, the average house, so in your house, for example, there's just you and Steph. You don't have children. You don't have pets. You hold around 40 cards between you.
Yeah.
Whereas a household with children and pets will hold around 100. Now, the average mum will hold between 80 and 95 cards at any one time. Because, for example, let's take pets as an example.
Yeah, I get it.
So,
you got to walk them twice a day. You got to feed them. You got to get the food. Yeah. You got to.
Or so since reading this book, me and my husband have been divvying up the share of the mental load a bit better. But I'll give you an example. So food. My husband, Sean, cooks dinner every night now. Like, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, universe. Like, it's just brilliant because I don't have to worry and stress about it. But actually, I still hold that card alongside him because I plan the food. I do the food shop.
Yeah.
So if he was to take that card off me completely, he would also take care of that.
Right.
If that makes sense. Yeah. So my second tip about being able to, a healthy trait in somebody is about reducing stress. And it's not just about self-care. It's not just about yoga and breath work and meditation and journaling, which have been very important to me. Reducing stress has been about reducing the mental load, which has meant asking for help.
Yeah, I mean, stress management is huge. And I guess when I listed mine, like daily movement is a form of stress management for me, and stress relief, and great sleep is a part of that, and setting boundaries is a part of that, which kind of comes into those things. But I think having the awareness to know what your values are, to know what you want, to be able to, if you get stressed out, whether it's with work or with your partner, to be able to have those uncomfortable conversations sometimes, and to respect yourself, to be in an overall better place, or to share some of the load is super important.
No, it is
to live an overall like health is so multifaceted. There's so many aspects and parts to it. And yeah, some people have got different loads than others, or different stresses than others. And I think that's why having that awareness to understand, like, what are the things that maybe stress me out on a daily, weekly, monthly basis? Is it your partner? Is it your mother-in-law when you see her once a month? You know what I mean? Like, Is it your boss when each quarter, when you just, they're looking at numbers and everything? Like, what is it that triggers you in those moments? And then how can you develop strategies to keep yourself, to manage that stress the best you can? So, you never really get into that point of being a 10 where you're just burnt out and you just can't do it anymore. Like, what have you got to do on a daily basis to keep yourself at a good sort of pace or state?
I think for me, though, with that stress reduction, it is about having the confidence to have those conversations and
it's difficult
and ask for help.
So me and Steph, like, she doesn't like having confrontation with me, like, at all. She wants to almost appease me and make things more comfortable, versus I can tell straight away if I've done something that's upset her, and I will force us to have that difficult conversation because I want to know what she really thinks. And sometimes she'll get upset and she'll cry, and that's hard for me to see, because anytime I see anyone crying, I'm like, I just want to help, I want to make things better. But we'll have those conversations to try and grow as a couple, to make sure that, hey, like, am I doing things that have upset you, or can I help here, or do you need help here, or are you just not asking? So I kind of take that responsibility on me, but I always keep telling her to try her best to communicate more with me, so it becomes more balanced on that side of things. So it's difficult. I think you could do a whole bloody podcast on relationships. It is, but I think just having that respect for each other, I think just a huge one, because by me having that conversation with her, and at that time, she knows that even if I don't get it all right, at least I'm trying, and that's what matters at that moment in time. That I'm at least trying to be better or help out in some sort of way.
That also actually links on with my next one, which is about dropping perfectionism. And before I move into that, about how that relates specifically to health and fitness, linking that back to reducing stress. So you've just said that at least you've tried to help. So that person has asked for help, you've tried. It's also, and I speak for many women that I know, we have this sometimes really high standard let's say we're talking about sharing the load about domestic chores. And what I like about this book,
God, don't
but what
don't
I like
stack the
about
dishwasher the right way. I'm just getting devil eyes.
but that's what I like about this book, because it also talks about discussing with each other what is a minimum standard you're going to stick. So, for example, let's use you and Stefan stacking the dishwasher as an example. Yeah. Like, is it more important to her that you do it in that certain way, or that you do it? And sometimes it's about that person understanding that holding on to that unrealistic expectation and that standard causes the stress as well. Yeah. Because there's no point trying to ask for help and then not accepting the standard that is delivered back to you. So having that discussion between yourselves of, okay, so you might need to unfortunately have a lesson in how to stack the dishwasher.
The cutlery's got to be pointing up and the dish.
I am you in that scenario. Sean goes insane at me because of the way that I just lob it all in and he gets really upset. It's like a game of like Tetris for him, how to fit it all in. So but dropping perfectionism also links into that all or nothing mindset for me. Definitely. So I was that person, all or nothing. And back to the Body Smart community, the big thing that came out from the Body Smart community was moderation. Yeah. So they felt that the healthiest trait that they'd developed was moderation. And by moderation, I think that links into dropping that all or nothing mindset and perfectionism. A lot,
I'd say a really high percentage of the ladies that we coach have that all or nothing mindset where it's like, if I can't do all the things, then I'm going to do none of it because there's no point. Instead of like, something is always better than nothing. And if you come back to that, getting 1% better, reflecting, learning and growing, if you're constantly doing something instead of nothing, you're progressively moving forward. So over time, you are getting better and seeing improvements. Versus that, if you always just went, well, I've got to do all the things or nothing at all. Maybe you do all the things, but it lasts 2 weeks and then you're back to nothing. And then where are you again? You're just back at square one. Versus if you're doing something, reflect, learn and grow, something, reflect, learn and grow, and you're progressively then getting better because you're doing something all the time. You're becoming more educated around food. You're being more consistent with your workout. You're setting healthier boundaries. You're managing your stress even better. You're having a balanced diet, all these things, and you're constantly getting better at them. Well, over time, they all improve. But it is difficult. It is difficult to drop that all or nothing mindset around and perfectionism around so many things, because that is the standard that is set in some areas of our lives and has to be appeased. But in a lot of cases, like, life isn't perfect, is it? You know what I mean?
Is
like it's just, life happens. Like there's bad things that happen. Like we get sick, we get ill. There's just, there's death in the family. There's all the worst things that happen to all of us. Like none of us are escaping that. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't matter if you're rich, poor, black or white. It doesn't matter. Like all these things happen to all of us. We all get ill. We all go through bereavements. We all have all these horrible things that happen. And then we also hopefully all have really good things that happen. We have celebrations and, we have holidays and vacations and really, really, really good, miraculous things. But all of them often tend to throw a spanner in the works with our health and fitness. You know what I mean? Sometimes boundaries get moved or the best laid plans go out the window. And I think that's where you've just got to almost be at peace with yourself to be able to adapt and adjust and realize, hey, at this moment in time, good or bad, I'm just going to do my best. Yeah. And that's doing something rather than nothing, instead of, oh my God, this really bad thing's happened, or oh my God, we're celebrating tonight because that just happened and now I'm going to do nothing. When was there an opportunity to do something? Yeah. And I don't think it's a conversation that is ever really being had that often. You know what I mean? It's
one thing I found really helpful. We have lots of tools at Body Smart for clients, and each coach will work differently and prescriptively as well for each person. One thing that Gav's been doing with me, my coach Gav at Body Smart, is scales of success. So we outlined together what 4 things in mindset, nutrition and fitness were my scales of success. So if I was to do 25%, what would that look like in each? What does 50% look like? What does 75% look like? And what does 100% look like in each? So for example, with nutrition, 25% is track my food accurately. 50% is track my food, hit my macros and focus on protein. Focus on protein is 75%, and then 100% is also mindful eating. Yeah. So every day I'm working towards those scales of success in nutrition, mindset and fitness. And I message Gav in the morning and say, from the day before, this is what I did. And as long as it's 25%, in all areas, which it never has been, to be fair. One of them might be 25%, but one might be 50 and one might be 100.
Yeah.
It makes me realise that I'm still, like you said, I'm not doing nothing. I'm still working towards some form of success. And that's been really cool for me to do that. And anybody can do that. Anybody can sit and outline, right, well, what are my non-negotiables? This comes back to your thing about boundaries as well. What are the things I want to do and get to do every day to feel the healthiest mental and physical version of myself, and then work towards those. I'll give you an example. I've recently had COVID. It's not been fun at all. I've walked today to the podcast studio from the train station after being in isolation and couldn't hold a conversation on the phone with my sister at the same time. And she also is coached by Body Smart. And she was like, I need to get back on it today. She's also had COVID because we've been together. And I was like, but no, actually, you're not feeling well. Because we also struggle to rest and recover. Being ill is such an inconvenience for us in this modern, busy life that we lead. And dropping that perfectionism of, actually, no, I can't commit this week to 4 gym sessions because that's not going to be the best thing for me. Yeah. So instead, I'm going to do a bit of gentle yoga every day. So at least I feel like I'm doing something. And that is so mental. You've talked about peace there. That feels mentally peaceful, accepting that that's okay. I don't need to do all of the things and be on all of the time because I need that time to recover and get better.
And that's just one of the spanners that life will throw at us all. And it's really important. But just, I think I said this the other day on our Instagram, which is, good habits compoundingly make your life better over time versus bad habits compoundingly make your life worse over time. And if you're compoundingly doing something of a good habit every single day, not everything, but something, over time that does stack, and you do have the compounding effect where it just becomes easier and easier and easier because you're just repeatedly showing up and taking action. You're showing yourself you can be consistent with all those parts of your health and fitness.
Oh, it's like you knew what my last one was. my last healthy trait, and the majority of our community in the Body Smart Fitness group said the same thing: consistency. Yeah. And with that, discipline. I think
very similar.
Yeah, they are so similar. But I think for me, consistency and discipline are interlinked. I've written books about disciplines. That word personally to me is very, very important. And it's a word that I will mentally repeat to myself. For example, I've said I wanted to commit to gentle yoga every day this month. It's only 25 to 30 minutes. It's not strenuous. It's helping me recover after having COVID. So last night, I just couldn't be arsed. I couldn't be bothered. But then my little head went, come on, it's only 25 to 30 minutes. It's going to make you sleep better. It's good for your breathing. It's good for your muscles. Come on, let's be consistent. Let's not break that consistency. And that was lovely. It was so powerful and so nice to be able to just do it.
It's that inner bitch. Yeah. It shows up. It shows up all the time. It shows up for me. You know what I mean? And I think consistently beating that inner bitch allows you to just feel empowered and feel more disciplined because it's not going away. I'm telling you now, like I deal with this like all the time. You know what I mean? But by the fact that I consistently show up, allows me to know that, hey, like I'm not going to listen to those voices in my head that are telling me to like, and I don't want to get this distinction wrong in terms of like there is a time to rest and recover sometimes and have an extra hour in bed, but sometimes there's not, and it's just that inner bitch just like wanting you to seek comfort. And I definitely find I don't know if anyone listening resonates with this, of a morning is probably like when I first wake up, when my inner bitch is its loudest. You know what I mean? It's like, stay in bed. It's really comfortable. It's warm. Like that's when it's like its loudest, but it's just kind of like getting up, just getting in the shower, getting to the gym or doing whatever it is I'm going to do that morning, that day, and just beating it. And it's like the second you've woke up after that first hour, 90 minutes have gone, your wakefulness kicks in and you feel fine and you're okay. Like I said, that's if you like having a good night's sleep and stuff. If maybe you've had like 4 hours sleep, that extra hour in bed's probably well needed. But yeah, being consistent and consistently being able to show up even when you don't feel like you want to is super empowering.
I like that, the analogy there of the inner bitch. So my greatest struggle in a morning is hitting the snooze button. So I have my alarm downstairs to force me to go downstairs, and sometimes I'll put post-it notes saying no snooze. But I think I might try that, like whoever's going to hit that snooze button is it's either me or the inner bitch hitting it, isn't it, and winning. The inner bitch is the person who hits it and goes back to bed. Whereas if it's me and I'm winning, what would be the alternative? If that's the inner bitch that wins and turns it off and goes back to bed,
you could either say you being your best self or you being Super Gemma or however.
Super Gemma.
Yeah, there we go.
That's it, right? So Super Gemma hits snooze but turns the light on. Hits the coffee machine, gets ready for the day and gets a glass of water. But in a bitch Gemma, fucking ruins all of my goals and my plans. She hits it and goes back to bed. So it's like that action in the morning. Is it going to be Super Gemma
and
the bitch?
The big part here is it is just you versus you. No one else is hearing those conversations in your own head. And it's being able, like, you can lie and convince everyone else that you've been consistent, but it matters about speaking your own truth and being true to yourself when you say those things. So like I've had it where, and I know you say I'm a sadist over some things like this, but I'll go to the gym sometimes and I'm maybe a little bit tired and there's like an exercise I really don't like, maybe like split squats or just something horrible, and I'm like, I really don't want to do them. And then in my mind I'm like, should we just go a bit lighter today? And then I'm just like, fuck you for even thinking that. Now I'm going to do an extra set at the heavier weight just for that inner bitch, for that thought even coming into my mind. And it's weird, and Steph just thinks I'm a psycho for saying stuff like that. But like for me, it's kind of proven that point that like that was almost like a weak thought that come into my mind. My inner bitch wanted to just win, and I nearly let it. And then I just kind of stamped out like, well, that's almost like the treatment I gave myself for thinking and feeling that way. And then I feel amazing, obviously, after I've done it, because I've kind of won that mental battle in my head. But I just think it's hilarious because I'm like in the gym having this like battle in my mind around doing a certain exercise, or whether it's in the morning or at certain situations. But yeah, I think we all.
I feel exactly the same, but I didn't. It's taken me a long time to build up to that. And I think this is my main messages in my books as well. That's come from keeping my promises to myself. From
self-trust is everything.
Self-trust is everything. It really is.
Because if you don't trust yourself, if your word means nothing to yourself, when you speak, you're just lying to yourself all the time. So when you, and then also that's, if you say that to other people and go, hey, like, I'll come give you a hand at 5 o'clock on Wednesday, and when you just don't show up, like that's how everyone else now perceives you, as just a person who's not reliable or doesn't show up or is just like half-assed. And then if you're then telling yourself, I'm going to go to the gym at 9 o'clock on Monday, and when you don't go and you just keep doing that, you start to identify in your own mind, consciously and subconsciously, as a person who is just not reliable. You don't trust yourself, and it's not a great place to be. And I feel like a lot of people are maybe in that place, and that's why it's just so important to set a realistic framework, start showing up consistently, start building that self-trust, start having those wins, because it's so empowering when you say you're going to do what you're going to do and you trust yourself. And we've talked about this a lot. I really do feel like you get to that place where you're just unfuckable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Unfuckable with. I love that word. It's great. Yeah. So if you want to be unfuckable with, Jaymie's top tips, go and repeat your top 5 traits are?
Daily movement, a balanced diet, great sleep, boundaries, and responsibility.
And mine are outdoor exercise, reduce your stress, drop the perfectionism, discipline and consistency. I missed one actually. Be authentically you. Yeah. That was my other one. So, but that I think links into your thing about values. It's the same conversation. Know who you and be authentically yourself. Know who you are. Do the stuff that you love to do. Don't be scared of saying no. Have those boundaries?
Because I think a lot of people might struggle. Like, have you got any tips for how you figure that out?
Oh, it takes a long time. Oh my goodness. I think that's a whole new podcast episode. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't recommend it, but having a nervous breakdown was amazing for me.
We don't recommend that.
We don't recommend that at all. But having to face the harsh reality of having to build yourself back up and choose which pieces of yourself you're going to put back together, would not wish it on my worst enemy, but was life-changing for me.
And was that, like, from what I've read and understood, the way to get to know yourself a lot better is to actually spend time with yourself.
Yes.
Like, no distractions, not on your phone, not going for a walk of a podcast in, actually, like, on your own, and this is something from that I'm probably going to delve into now that you've gone on about it so much, probably journaling.
Did you just say you're going to journal?
But yeah, I'd say, because...
Oh, so excited. I've got goosebumps. You know, I love journaling so much, yeah.
But yeah, I don't think people spend enough time with themselves anymore, so you don't know yourself. You were just, you know, the phone's become the adult pacifier, hasn't it?
I've never heard that before, but you're absolutely right. Yeah, the dummy.
Yeah, the dummy, dummy for British, pacifier for Americans.
Yeah,
We're on the
I love
the
it.
languages now, yeah.
Brilliant. Well, if anybody listening would like to delve into getting one-to-one nutrition, fitness and mindset coaching, what should they do?
They should go over to bodysmartfitness.com. You'll be able to look at our website, do your homework, do your due diligence. Did I get it?
Due diligence. Oh, that's tongue twister. You ready? Due diligence.
Yeah. We've got over...
Yes, you can say it.
We've got over 275 independent reviews on Trustpilot now. Go and read them. Our clients do a better job at explaining the stuff we do with our coaching, the incredible transformations the ladies go through than us. But yeah, when you're on the website, you can go through, apply, and then book to speak with one of our amazing breakthrough team.
Thank you very much. And if you've got any comments on this, please let us know. You can find us on Instagram. We are at Body Smart Fitness. Don't forget to leave a like as well. You can rate this podcast and also leave a review on here too, on the podcast platform that you listen to this podcast on. Thanks very much.
Thank you.